Two sal trees stand at the edge of a grove in Kusinara. It is the last night of the 5th century before the Common Era, and a man is dying between them. He is 80 years old. His body has been failing for months. Bad food, dysentery, the kind of slow collapse that turns a lion into something fragile. But the trees are doing something no one expects. They are blooming. Out of season, white flowers dropping onto the cloth where the old man lies, as if the grove itself knows what is about to happen. Monks have gathered, hundreds of them. Some are sitting in silence, some are weeping openly. And one of them, a tall man named Anatta, who has been at this teacher's side for 25 years, who has heard every discourse, memorized every teaching, walked every dusty road from Rajagaha to Savatthi beside him. Ananda is leaning against a doorpost in the next room, crying so hard he cannot stand. The dying man hears this. He asks someone to bring Ananda to him. And what he says to Ananda, the last personal thing he will ever say to anyone, will break something open in you. We will get to those words, but not yet. His name was Siddhattha Gotama. The world calls him the Buddha, and the single most important thing he ever taught. The thread running through every discourse, every parable, every silence was this: nothing lasts. Not your body, not your thoughts, not the people you love, not the feeling you have right now reading this, not even the teaching itself. The Pali word is Anicca. Say it like Anatta, and it is usually translated as impermanence. But that translation makes it sound passive, academic, like something you read in a philosophy textbook and nod at. Anicca is not passive. Anicca is the ground moving under your feet. It is the claim that everything you have ever held, every relationship, every achievement, every version of yourself you thought was final, is already in the process of falling apart. And here is what most people miss. The Buddha did not teach this to depress you. He did not teach this to make you withdraw from the world, sit in a cave, and wait for death. He taught it because he believed, and 2,500 years of practitioners after him have confirmed, that the moment you truly see impermanence, something extraordinary happens. You stop fighting, and for the first time in your life, you are free. This is not a story about accepting defeat. This is not a story about giving up. This is not a philosophy of sadness. This is the most radical claim the Buddha ever made, that the thing you are most afraid of is the key to your freedom. To understand why the Buddha was so obsessed with impermanence, you have to go back to the beginning, not the Enlightenment. Before that, before the 6 years of starving himself in the forest, before the palace walls, go back to when he was a boy. There is a festival in Kapilabhatu, the Plowing Festival, an annual ceremony where the king himself drives the first furrow into the earth to bless the harvest. Siddhattha is 7 years old. He is a prince, so they seat him under a rose apple tree at the edge of the field with attendants to watch him while his father works the crowd. The boy is not watching his father. He is watching the field. The plows cut the soil open, and from the turned earth, insects emerge. Worms, beetles, larvae, pulled from the dark into the light. And then the birds come, swiftly, efficiently, without cruelty and without mercy. They eat the insects, and somewhere above, a hawk circles watching the birds. The prince sees it. The whole chain. Life feeding on life, feeding on life. Arising and passing away in a single afternoon, in a single field under a tree where he was supposed to be safe. Something cracks open in his chest. The texts say he spontaneously entered a meditative state, the first jhana, right there under the tree. A 7-year-old sitting with the reality of impermanence before he had any word for it. He would spend the next 23 years trying to unsee what he saw. The palace, the wives, the music and the gardens, and the carefully curated life his father built to keep him comfortable and blind. None of it worked. You cannot unsee impermanence once you have seen it. Stay with me, because the next story is harder. Her name was Kisagotami. She came from a poor family. The name itself means skinny Gotami, which gives you a sense of how the world treated her. But she married into a wealthy household, and when she bore a son, everything changed. She had status. She had love. She had the one thing that made all the years of being the skinny girl from the poor family worth enduring. And then the child died, a toddler. The texts do not say how. Kisagotami did not accept it. She picked up the body and went from house to house through the village, knocking on doors, asking for medicine. "Please," she said, "my child is sick. Please give me medicine for my child." The neighbors looked at her, this woman holding a dead child, asking for a cure, and some turned away, and some wept, and none could help her. Finally, someone said, "Go to the ascetic Gotama. He may have medicine." She went. She stood in front of the Buddha with her dead child in her arms and said, "Please, give me medicine." The Buddha looked at her. He did not lecture. He did not explain impermanence. He did not quote a sutta. He said, "I can help you, but first bring me a mustard seed from a house where no one has ever died. No parent, no child, no spouse, no servant. Bring me that seed and I will give you the medicine." Kisagotami went, door to door, house to house, and at every door, the same answer. "We lost our father last year. My sister died in childbirth. Our grandfather, 2 years ago." Every house, every single one. She walked until her feet bled and the sun went down, and somewhere on the road outside the village, she stopped. She looked at the child in her arms, truly looked, and she understood. Not because someone explained it to her, because she walked through it. Door to door, death to death. Until the teaching was not a concept, but the weight in her arms. She laid the child down. She went back to the Buddha. She asked to be ordained. And this is where it gets remarkable. Kisagotami did not become a minor figure. She became one of the foremost nuns in the early Sangha. Her verses appear in the Therigatha, the poems of the elder women, and they are among the most luminous in the entire Pali canon. The woman who could not let go of a dead child became one of the greatest teachers of letting go the world has ever known. But the Buddha did not teach impermanence only through grief. He also taught it through wonder. Picture this. The Ganges River, wide and slow under the midday sun. The Buddha stands on the bank with a group of monks. He reaches down and scoops a lump of foam from the current. He holds it up. "What do you see?" he asks. They see foam. Shapeless, temporary, already dissolving in his hand. "Form is like this," the Buddha says. "Look closely and there is nothing solid there." He points to a bubble on the water. "Feelings are like this. They rise, they catch the light for a moment. They pop." A shimmer of heat on the far bank. Perception is like that mirage. It looks real from a distance. Walk toward it and there is nothing. He picks up a piece of plantain trunk. The kind you can peel and never find a core. Your mental formations are like this, layers without a center. And then, consciousness itself. A magician stands at the crossroads and performs a trick. You see a man, you see a woman, you see an army, but there is nothing there. Consciousness is like that magic show. 5 things you thought were solid: your body, your feelings, your perceptions, your thoughts, your awareness. And the Buddha is telling you that not one of them will hold its shape if you look closely enough. This is not terrifying. Pay attention to this. This is not saying you are nothing. It is saying that what you are is not a fixed thing. You are a process. A river, not a rock, and rivers do not break. They flow. They change shape. They move around obstacles. They reach the sea. If nothing is truly solid, then nothing can truly be destroyed. And taught, not the grief, not the loss, is what the Buddha wanted you to see. So here is the pattern. A prince watches insects die and cannot unsee it. A mother carries her child door to door until the truth is not a concept but the weight in her arms. A lump of foam dissolves in the Buddha's hand, and suddenly, the 5 things you thought made you solid, your body, your feelings, your perceptions, your thoughts, your awareness, are revealed as temporary processes, not permanent possessions. Every story we have heard so far is about someone who tried to hold on, and every story turned on the moment they stopped. If this is landing for you, if you feel something shifting, subscribe. We go this deep every single video, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The algorithm does not push this kind of content without your help, but we are only halfway, because the Buddha did not just teach impermanence as a fact to accept. He taught it as a practice, a technology for the mind, and that changes everything. Here is the part nobody tells you. In the West, when we hear impermanence, we think of it as one teaching, a single idea. Things change. Got it. Moving on. But in the Buddhist framework, impermanence is not a standalone concept. It is the first domino. The Buddha taught 3 characteristics of all conditioned existence, what he called the tilakkhana, the 3 marks. Impermanence, Anicca, is the first, and the other 2 fall from it like dominoes. The second is Dukkha. Say it like Dug Coke. It is usually translated as suffering, but that word is too heavy. Dukkha originally described the off-center hole of a cartwheel. Not agony, not tragedy, just a little off. The persistent feeling that something is not quite right. The 3 in the morning restlessness you cannot explain. The background hum of dissatisfaction that follows you even into the moments that are supposed to be enough. And the reason for that hum? You are clinging to things that are already changing. You are gripping a wave and wondering why you cannot hold water. The 3rd mark is Anatta, Anatta, non-self. And this is where it gets radical. If everything is impermanent, your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your memories, then what exactly is the you that you are so busy protecting? The Buddha's answer, there is no fixed you. There never was. You are not a noun. You are a verb, a happening, an unfolding. Anicca, Dukkha. Anatta. Impermanence leads to unsatisfactoriness, leads to the absence of a fixed self. They are not 3 separate teachings. They are one insight seen from 3 angles. And impermanence is the door. There was a man named Nakulapita, an old householder, bent and sick, who came to the Buddha at the Eastern Bamboo Park. He bowed and said, "Lord, I am old. My body is afflicted. Every step is a burden. I want to see you because every time I see you, I feel some comfort. Please, give me a teaching." The Buddha looked at this frail old man and said something that, if you are not ready for it, sounds almost cruel. "So it is, householder." "So it is." Householder, anyone who claimed even a moment of perfect health in a body like this would be a fool. Therefore, householder, you should train yourself thus, though my body is afflicted, my mind will not be afflicted. That is it. That is the practice. Not pretending your body is not falling apart. It is. Not pretending you will not lose the people you love. You will. The practice is training the mind to not collapse alongside the body, to watch impermanence without being dragged under by it. After the Buddha said this, Nakulapita left, but he was confused. He did not fully understand. So he went to Sariputta, the wisest of the disciples, and asked for help. And Sariputta, the man whose mind was said to be second only to the Buddha's, sat with this sick old man and explained it gently. When an uninstructed person is touched by painful feeling, they resist, they grieve, they weep, they become distraught. That is 2 arrows, the arrow of the pain itself and the arrow of the resistance to the pain. A well-instructed disciple, touched by the same painful feeling, does not resist, does not weep, does not add the second arrow. They feel 1 arrow only, 2 arrows, the pain and the story you tell yourself about the pain, the loss and the demand that the loss should not have happened. Impermanence is the first arrow. Clinging is the second, and the second arrow is the one that actually destroys you. Now here is something that puts the Buddha's teaching in perspective. 2,500 years after the Buddha sat with Nakulapita and half a world away, a Roman emperor named Marcus Aurelius sat alone in the military tent on the Danube frontier and wrote in his private journal, "Think of the life of man. Yesterday a drop of seed, tomorrow a handful of ashes." Marcus Aurelius never read a sutta, never heard the word Anicca. but he arrived at the same doorstep. The recognition that impermanence is not a theory. It is the fabric of reality. The difference, and this is where the teaching turns, is that the Stoics observed impermanence and counseled endurance. Bear it. Be strong. The Buddha observed impermanence and built a technology, not just seeing the truth, but training the mind day by day, breath by breath, to stop adding the second arrow. 2,000 years later, neuroscientist Sarah Lazar at Harvard would show that this training is not metaphorical. Meditators who practice sustained awareness, watching sensations arise and pass, watching thoughts form and dissolve, show measurable changes in brain structure. The amygdala, the region that fires when you are afraid, literally shrinks. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for perspective and equanimity, thickens. The ancient practice reshapes the organ that processes fear. The Buddha did not have an fMRI, but he knew. He called impermanence a Dhamma niyama, a natural law, as reliable as gravity. And he said that anyone who trained in it would find that the ground they thought was crumbling beneath them was, in fact, the only solid place to stand. 1 month before the Buddha died, his greatest student left first. Sariputta, the man who had explained the 2 arrows to the old householder, the man whose wisdom the Buddha himself praised above all others, fell ill. He knew it was the end, and he did something that tells you everything about the kind of man he was. He went home, back to the village where his mother still lived, an old Brahmin woman who had never accepted her son's conversion to the Buddha's path. She still performed the old rituals. She still prayed to the old gods. And Sariputta, the wisest mind in the Sangha, went home to die in the room where he was born. The texts say that on his final night, he taught the Dharma to his mother. And she understood. After all those years of resisting, she understood, not because her son argued with her, but because he was dying in front of her, and the teaching was the only thing that made sense of it. Sariputta died. His attendant, a young monk named Kunda, gathered the relics and the robes and carried them to the Buddha. Imagine that walk. A young monk carrying the bones and the robe of the greatest disciple, walking the road to where the Buddha waited. And when he arrived and placed the relics before the teacher, the Buddha held them and said to the assembled monks, "Even Sariputta has attained final nibbana. Even Sariputta, even the best, even the wisest, even the one you thought might somehow be the exception. There are no exceptions." Hold that thought. Because now we return to the grove, the sal trees, the white flowers falling out of season, and Ananda weeping against the doorpost, unable to hold himself upright because the person who gave his life meaning is about to stop breathing. The Buddha hears the weeping and asks someone to bring Ananda to him. Ananda comes. His face is swollen. His robes are wet. He has been with this man for 25 years, has walked beside him through monsoons and droughts, has memorized every discourse, has fielded every question from every skeptic and every king, and now he has to watch him die. The Buddha looks at his closest companion and says, and these are the actual words from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the most detailed account of the Buddha's final days. "Enough, Ananda. Do not grieve. Do not weep. Have I not already taught you that all things near and dear to us must change and pass away? How could it be, Ananda, that what is born, what is come into being, what is conditioned and subject to decay, how could it be that such a thing should not pass away?" That is what he said. Not a new teaching, not a final revelation, a reminder. The same thing he had been saying for 45 years, since the night he sat under the Bodhi tree and watched the entire structure of reality reveal itself. Everything that comes together falls apart. I've been telling you this your whole life. Why are you surprised? But the Buddha was not cold. Listen to what he says next. He turns to the assembled monks and says, "Ananda has served me faithfully for 25 years. He is a good man. He will attain liberation." He praises Ananda publicly, tenderly, even as he is dying. The teaching is not the absence of love. The teaching is loving without demanding that love be permanent. And then, the final words. The last thing the Buddha ever said to anyone on this earth. All conditioned things are subject to decay. Accomplish your aim with diligence, via Dhamma Sankara. Apamadina sampadeta, all conditioned things, your body, your career, your identity, the face of the person sleeping next to you tonight, are in the process of falling apart. This is not a threat. This is the truth. And your job? Your only job is to wake up to it before it is too late to matter. Mahakassapa was not there that night. He was traveling on the road to Kusinara when a wandering ascetic passed him going the other direction, carrying a coral tree flower. Mahakassapa asked for news. The ascetic told him the teacher was dead. 7 days now. While other monks collapsed into grief, Mahakassapa stood on that dusty road and said quietly, "The Blessed One has already taught us. All things that are born must pass away." How could it be otherwise? He did not weep. He organized. Within months, he called 500 monks to Rajagaha for what would become the first Buddhist council. To recite and preserve every word of the teaching before it, too, could be lost to impermanence. Here is the moment I want you to sit with. Not the ancient world, not the Salgrove, yours. You know this already. You know impermanence, not as a concept, as a fact you carry in your body. There is a moment. Maybe it has already happened to you. Maybe it is coming. When you look at one of your parents and realize they are old. Not the abstract, everyone ages kind of knowing. The specific, physical, undeniable kind. The Tuesday evening when your father reaches for something on a high shelf and cannot. When your mother asks you the same question she asked 10 minutes ago and does not remember asking. When you see the hand that used to hold yours and the skin is thinner than paper. That is Anicca, not in a sutta, not in a monastery. At the dinner table. In the kitchen. In the hallway outside the bedroom where someone you love is getting smaller every year. And the question the Buddha is asking you, the question he asked with his dying breath, is, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to look away? Scroll past it? Pretend the people you love have forever? Or are you going to walk into that kitchen tonight and be there fully, completely, without your phone, without your plans, without the comfortable lie that there will always be more time? The Buddha did not teach impermanence to make you hopeless. He did not teach it to make you withdraw. He did not teach it to build a religion. He taught it so you would stop sleepwalking through the only life you are sure you have. So, 3 things to carry with you. First, impermanence, Anicca, is not a pessimistic observation. It is the first of the 3 marks of existence, and the Buddha considered it the gateway to all liberation. You do not suffer because things change. You suffer because you pretend they will not. The teaching is not everything ends, so give up. The teaching is everything ends, so pay attention. Second, you can practice this right now. The next time you feel anxiety rising, or anger tightening your chest, or grief pressing down on you, pause. Do nothing. Just watch it. It will change. It always does. Not because you are special, not because you meditated correctly, because that is the nature of all conditioned things. They arise, they persist for a while, and they pass. You do not have to believe this. You can verify it in the next 60 seconds. Third, the people you love are not permanent. You already know this. You have always known this. The question is whether you are going to live like you know it. The Buddha spent 45 years teaching impermanence, and his very last words, the final sentence of a 45-year career, were not about enlightenment, not about nirvana, not about any grand cosmic truth. They were about urgency. Accomplish your aim with diligence. Do not wait. Do not assume there is more time. There may not be. Has impermanence ever actually helped you let something go? A grudge, a loss, an old version of yourself you were clinging to? I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments. All conditioned things are subject to decay. Accomplish your aim with diligence. The Buddha said that, and then he closed his eyes. 2,500 years later, the teaching is still here. You are still here. What you do with that is up to you. If this reached you, subscribe. We go this deep every single week. In the next video, about what the Buddha actually said about desire and why most people get it completely wrong, is coming soon.